Cool. So, I have assumed you've got a pen and paper in front of you. You may not have a pen and paper. Please, if you haven't, please could you go and get that now? Because I'm going to try and ask you to write down 5 points as we go through this and see what you think about them. I'm a dialoguer. I'm very good at monologue. I'm not very good at the whole kind of presentation stuff. I'm much more, relate to people. So this is hard for me, but let's see how we go. So I want you to write down 5 things. The first thing is my phone number, please, if you're willing to. Okay, so if you'd be willing to text me during this next 15 minutes or so, that'd be great for me because that will give me dialogue things that I can chip off. So my phone number is +44 if you're outside of the UK, and then it's 7968 and it's 801 292. So 07968 801 292. Please do text me any questions that come to mind. A little bit about me. I love Brenny Brown. I don't know if you love Brenny Brown, but I really rate her. And if you haven't seen her TED talk on vulnerability, 20 million people have. Please have a look at that. What I love about her is that she's a researcher, and I've realized that I'm a researcher. She talks about this thing that she wanted to define and control her research and control it, but then she realized on a certain day she just had to be vulnerable and let the research take her where it would. And that resonates with me. I've been researching now for 15 years, what amounts to a GCSE of how to change. So how do we nurture anybody from the age of 9 to 99 to know how to change? And what comes through, I spent 1.5 million pounds during that time of other people's funding to research this whole thing. And what we've created now is an absolutely beautiful, I think, empowerment of future leaders. So I want to ask the first question I want to ask you now, and I'm going to give you literally seconds to write down some names. Who do you think God empowers? Does God empower future leaders? Can you write down some names now, right now, on a piece of paper in front of you of the leaders that God has empowered, the future leaders? Go. Could do like the Channel 4 music. Please write them down. These are the ones that I wrote down. Jesus, he empowers Jesus. Holy Spirit, he empowers Holy Spirit. Adam, Eve, Abraham, Joseph and his coat of many colors. David against Goliath. Mary in that environment. Joseph, her husband. Peter, an early disciple. James and John, sons of thunder. He's empowering all these people. Thomas, the not very bold person. All the disciples, and me and you as evangelists. Those are the people that God is empowering, I think, as future leaders. So I therefore have tried to base, try is the wrong word. I therefore have based my research in, if God empowers future leaders, why oughtn't we? Let's get on with it. Let's get on with it. And I just want to draw in some of the previous speakers because I kicked off this morning before I'd had my first cup of tea, listening to the other speakers. Derek said he was an introvert. If that's what introverts are in America, we're in trouble. Derek is outstanding. Ron said, let's answer the call. Tiffany was talking about, do you need a big budget? I didn't have a big budget at the start. I started with nothing. I started with some skills, but I just went and sought funding from the corporate sector because they desperately needed to change. So I helped them to change, and I charged them money up front. I'll tell you my story in a second, but there's part of that. And Bremley, how calm is Bremley? Did you hear the numbers Bremley said? $2.5 billion was the cash number. 200,000 people died. 100 million trees. How calm was Bremley? I want to be a bit more Bremley today. So that's just my reflection on drawing people in, drawing things in so far about what we've learned. By the way, do text me a question if a question comes to mind. Here is my story. Okay, I'm an engineer. I flunked out of school age of 16 because I failed my maths and physics O level. They're quite important if you're going to do maths and physics A level. And unfortunately, I flunked out of them and I had to redecide. I realized I wasn't that academic. I am clever, I think, I hope, but I'm not academically clever, theoretically in that. Anyway, I went and did an apprenticeship, and I learned how to make things. Mobile phones was a big thing. I'll come back to that in a second because that's an important part of the story. And what I worked out during that 10-year, I did actually go to uni at the brilliant Hatfield Poly, which is quite close to Luton. And I did learn how to be great at manufacturing systems and how to optimize and continuously improve things. And I'm so thankful to God that he put me amongst that cohort of great men and women. And we learned so much, and I put so much of that into practice. The what I found during that 10 years of making stuff is that I was an Isambard Kingdom Brunel type of engineer. I don't know if you can visualize that. So Isambard Kingdom Brunel said, well, we should make ships out of steel. People said, you can't make a ship out of steel. Wood is buoyant, steel isn't. No, guys, it's not about buoyancy anymore. It's about displacement. He used to make bridges out of steel. He used to make near me. There's a hill called the Box Hill that he drilled through so that the train could come via Bath to Bristol rather than another way, because that was kind of handy for Bath. Isambard Kingdom Brunel was a crazy visionary engineer. Not very welcome, maybe, because engineering, theoretical engineering, is about controlling and defining, like we said earlier with Brené Brown. And I realized I needed to bring the creativity and the innovation to it. I spent 15 years in engineering, and then a friend of mine came who worked at IBM, came and said, "Hey, John, do you want to come and join us?" And I said, "I can't join you. You've got deep experience at IBM. I know nothing." They said, "John, we like you. We like your attitude. We like your innovation. We like your creativity and your passion. Please, would you come and join us?" And I spent a chunk of years doing what I would now call artificial intelligence. So this whole process of machine learning of what Iceland Frozen Foods was one of our biggest customers. How can you work out what a mum who goes to Iceland is going to buy tomorrow? In fact, how can you guide that with a thing called a bog off, a buy one, get one free? How can you make it easy for her with her £71 a week? And what I realized there was that we were enabling people to lead their families and enabling this kind of way forward. And then I got to a stage in my career, and it was really interesting, where I couldn't carry off my day job anymore. There was this, we heard from Ron, didn't we, answer the call. There was this burning desire in me to do something with the skills that I'd been given, the things that I'd quilled, you're talking about how people change, who and what changed and shaped you, that's given you this mindset. Great question. So I got to this situation where I realized I had 4 children, Rice Krispies to put on the table. I couldn't carry it off anymore. And what I realized was that was one of the things, to answer your question, that was really beginning to guide me to say, John, God was guiding me through that. John, you've got to do something different. What happened, the amazing thing that happened is I got headhunted by this guy, Paul, who sent me on one of these how to be a director programs. I don't know if you've ever been on one of those future leader programs. And I immediately realized that what that woman was saying at the front, what that guy was saying at the front, was what I was called to do. It was just that moment of, wow, I know what she's going to say next. I could be standing there. And I knew that we were paying them a chunk of money per day to come and stand in front of the 20 of us. And by the way, that's my favorite dynamic, standing in front of a room of 15, 20 people and nurturing them. It's a brilliant dynamic. So what I realized on that day was I needed to take a massive risk and completely change my career. I was fortunate that I was able to get a package from the company that I left. And my MD, Paul, was fantastic. I went to him and said, "Look, Paul, I'm losing my passion. And is that okay if I leave?" And he said, "John, I trust you. Go for it, mate." And I went to a company here in Bath and I said to them, "Please, can I work for you for 3 months? Would you give me everything?" It was a Christian coaching organization. "Would you give me everything that you know?" And I worked under an absolutely amazing Christian coach, a guy called Joe Roberts, a fighter pilot, who's in Colorado now, part of the International Coaching Federation. He's still my master coach. And I said to him, "Can I work for you for 3 months for free? If that works out, will you pay me for 3 months? By the way, I'll bring you all of my customers from the software industry, etc. And finally, if that works out, please could I carry on working for you going forward?" And I worked for them for 18 months, and it was fantastic, formative time in my life. And I'm so thankful, so thankful to that company. What frustrated me right from the start was that only rich people get top quality coaching. Why is that? They're already middle class. They don't need it. They're already directors. Why are we giving the? Why can't we? Why can't we give top quality coaching away free of charge to every man, woman, and child? Now I know that's impossible, but I had worked on the production line making these things. They would come down to us on the production line and say, "Look, John, we've got the first one working, Cyan C5, if you can remember that, Motorola, Sony Ericsson, Nokia, all the guys I worked for back then. We got the first one working. It's cost us £60,000 to get the first one working. Please, can you make them, please, John, for 60 quid each, $60 each? Because if you can't, we can't sell them for $600. So forgive the God-given arrogance in me, please, but I felt confident that if we could make phones cost effectively, then I could find a way to make empowering future leaders, to make transformational change available free of charge to every man, woman, and child, as indeed God does all the way through the Bible. There's no, I was going to say there's no cost. There's a whole Bible study on that, isn't there? But basically, it's a free gift, isn't it? Salvation, grace, forgiveness, it's a free gift. So I set about coming up with a plan of how I was going to do that. And I worked intrinsically in the utility industry in the UK and the construction industry, big FTSE 100 companies. And I was called in to nurture, God gave me contracts to nurture future leaders. And I decided quite early on that rather than doing piddly little bits here and there, I was going to give them the whole thing. How do you empower a future leader? And now I'm going to give you 3 key points, if that's okay, about how you empower a future leader. And then I'm going to pass, and I'm going to call Matt in and we'll see if he's got any questions for me. Number 1, change fails of the time. If you Google now, successful change programs, you'll get a number somewhere between 70 and 90% of the time that change fails. It fails for a single reason, that people feel told. They don't feel asked. They don't feel honoured, valued, respected, listened to. They feel told. Last year as a globe, we spent $13 billion with McKinsey. We spent $7 billion with a company called Boston Consulting, who you've never heard of. And we spent $4 million with Bain, who you have heard of. By the way, billion is a lot. If I put you in prison for 1 million seconds, you'll be in misery for 6 weeks. If I put you in prison for 1 billion seconds, you'll be there for 31 years. That's a lot. We spend a lot each year with these big change agents. So do they know how to change? If we ask them to fix the Gaza, Hezbollah situation, Hamas, Israel, if we ask them to fix the gap between wealth and poverty on the earth, if we ask them to, even a simple one like fixing homelessness in a Western city centre, McKinsey, Bain, Boston, they wouldn't know how to do that. They don't know how to do change. They're powerless. All they're powerful to do is to take what the board wants and to drive through what we've already decided. And that's where the money gets spent. That is change that tells. So I'm asking you to consider empowering yourself and future leaders by doing change that asks. Created a GCSE of how to change. It's a 7-week, 7-session program over 2 months with a month run up beforehand, and it empowers people with a 10-day gap in between to apply it. Everything that you would learn if you were taught how to change at school. By the way, why don't we? Teaching 9-year-olds how to change. I don't understand it. Why aren't we teaching board level directors who don't know how to change and are calling in McKinsey how to change? I don't understand it. Well, now I've created a program, and I love Bremley's vision and his ability. Wow. I'm hoping in 20 years' time, I can come back and say, and these are the numbers that we did. By the way, there's 8 billion people in the world. By 2050, there'll be 10 billion people. That number is growing, not because people are being born more, because they're not. People are being born less. That number is growing because people aren't dying. That means people's carbon footprint is going up. Evidence would be my mother, who's 87. She used to have a carbon footprint of 1 person, although living in a 3-bedroom house near Luton. She's now in a care home, 32 residents in a care home, 64 people looking after them. Hang on a second, my mum's got a 3-person carbon footprint, and that is not going away. So there's something about how do we nurture readiness for change. So that's my first point. Change fails 80% of the time. My second point, I'll do the third one really quickly, is that 70% of all learning in life only to the people who will review. 70% of all learning comes only to the people who will review and critically resolve to do something different. Let me illustrate that to you. You come to my, by the way, we learn 15% by joy in life, 15% by pain, and the other 70%, unless we review things, we're not learning it. Let me illustrate that. You come to my house and you say you're hungry. I get a pizza out of the freezer and I say, would you like some pizza? You say, yes, please. I snap it in half, put half in the bin. I snap another big chunk of it, put that in the bin, and I put 30% of it in the oven and I cook it for you. And you say, John, that's weird. Well, why are you doing that? Well, you said you were hungry. I'm going to give you 30% of this pizza. What are you doing with the other 7%? I know, I always do that. Do you want some more? I've got another pizza here. Look, I can take you another pizza out and snap off. And no, John, no, stop. There's learning. There's learning in those situations. And the last point I will hand over to you. And Matt, I don't know if you're ready to dive in, but this one's going to take 45 seconds or so. Is what a model that we empower people with is called ladder leadership. Ladder leadership. It's a bit like snakes and ladders, but what we propose is that the future leaders that you would empower in the business, they actually have the ladder. You, as a board director, you don't know what needs to happen. You've got an idea, but you don't know what needs to happen. So we propose that the board directors should provide not the whole ladder, but just the first upright. We call it it's actually called a stile. The one side of a ladder is called a stile. And we ask them to put that stile, that upright, that pole up and say, hello, guys, this is the wall that we need to get up. This is where we think we are. Please, could you get up that? And then the workforce, guess what they know? They know that wall is the wrong wall. This is the first wall we need to get over. That angle is the wrong angle. We need to go at that angle because there we're here, or we're not here, we're right back there. And they bring their pole, their upright, and then we say to them, wow, we've changed the angle of our ladder. We've changed the length of our ladder. We've changed the wall. Please, would you fill in the rungs now? And guess what? The workforce, when you empower them, initially they will say, no, why should I tell you? Why should I tell you? Why should I tell you what the solution is here? Because as soon as I tell you, I'll have to do it. Yeah. And well, I'm not sure I really want to be empowered. Well, because you're going to blame me. No, I promise you I won't blame you. If it goes well, you'll get the credit. If it goes badly, I will take the blame. So these are some of the elements of empowering future leaders.